All right. I think everything's running as it should be. Excellent. Good morning, everybody. Let me just pop out the chat. So I made a promise to a long-time viewer, Justin. I hope you're watching. That I would only eat cheese in the first 15 minutes of the video of the live stream. So I thought we'd get this out of the way. Hey Lucas, hey Scorch, Michael, Juju Bear. So today we have some Castello Marquise, rich and buttery with a piquant flavour and subtle fruity notes. I don't know what piquant means. Also I've got some Puhoi Valley Distinction Blue, creamy, spicy and sweet, seriously tasty blue cheese that's wrapped in wax. So I'm going to break that one open. I'll see if I can give you a view of me. Did that actually show up on camera? Hang on, let me have a look. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh, I like how there's an outgassing. That's like in any other food group in the world. The sound of air gassing out of it when you open it would be terrifying. Cheese? No. Yeah, that's a gross looking blue cheese. Why do people eat it? I don't know. Alright. So basically it's a package of safely contained mold. The things we do. Nice wax. And bugs landing on it. And here we have the Castello. Very nice. Ooh. That's a cool looking cheese. Whew. Quite odoriferous as well. So that one's like a wonderfully aged camembert. It's very very liquid. Blech. It's actually hard to cut. So I'm just going to have a try of both of these. Oh, thanks for the birthday wishes, everybody. It was a few days ago. It was Valentine's Day over here in New Zealand. It's my birthday. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So we'll try the blue cheese first. Wow. These are significant blocks of cheese, I must say. Just going to cut a chunk off. That one. It's very crumbly, as you do. And the Castello, the Marquise cheese. Very, very creamy. Okay. Back up to me. Hello. I also got a new espresso machine, and I've been hooked on it for the last 2 days now. Don't do it! Hey Gerbil, nice to see you. Okay, here goes. The blue cheese first. That is a very good blue cheese. I would say it's better than the Danish blue cheese that I tried on a previous stream, for sure. It's not very harsh, like as blue cheeses go. It's much more scary looking than it is scary tasting. It's very creamy. It's nice. Hello, Gypsy. Yes, I'm into my dragon food. Okay, now for the Marquise. Wow. Wow. That is like a very aged camembert cheese. Yeah, it's definitely got that brie camembert flavour. It's very strong. I don't know where they get the idea that that's in any way fruity or anything. Piquant is definitely, yeah, piquant for sure. Okay, so that concludes the cheese eating portion of the stream. Very nice. And now it's just coffee drinking and talking about D&D. Okay, one more bit of blue cheese. One more bite. Hopefully that doesn't attract too many insects. Blue Mountains Gaming, hello. Ellen, nice to see you. Jason, do you tell you? Hello. You good? Are AJ and Shio Gorath related? I don't know. Right. Hey, Seamus. Stanch Skate, nice to see you. Dragon Turtle, all my regulars, nice to see you all. Okay, so I've got some shout outs also that I wanted to cover right at the start of the video as well. So I've been watching Tim Kask, one of the D&D old school creators. He's got a video series called The Curmudgeon in the Cellar. So you definitely go and check out Tim Kask. I've got their names in the description of the video down below, but I'm going to put some web links in there as well once the video's done and dusted. Jordan with PH Silent and Sir Lucian doing their D&D breakfast show. They stream about 4 hours before I do on a Sunday morning, or a Saturday morning as the case may be over in the States. So if you can't catch one of my streams because it's too late for you, then theirs is a pretty good option. They do more sort of Twitch streaming as well though. Also, just wanted to talk about Twitch and D&D. Very much tied at the hip. It doesn't seem like D&D does anything other than Twitch streaming. Though they upload up onto YouTube, but the interactivity with the YouTube audience is practically zero. And since they do a lot of giveaways and things like that on Twitch, it seems a bit unfair, and it also seems like an industry bias because Curse, who runs Twitch, also runs D&D Beyond. So it's like, this is what I warned about right at the very beginning, and the reason why I was upset that the previous people who were producing the D&D online content essentially just screwed themselves over, and then they handed it to Twitch essentially, and so that's given Twitch a market lead, an artificial market lead on streaming content and online content and basically interactivity. So it sort of screws us YouTubers in the a little bit, because it provides an unnatural pressure to Twitch stream, because that's kind of where the perception of where the audience for D&D is, although in my case it's not true. So I will continue to stream on YouTube, and I'm very resistant to going over to Twitch, not only because I'm not used to it as a platform, but also because I kind of got a bug up my ass about that whole thing. And I just, yeah, there's nothing wrong with Twitch, don't get me wrong. Okay, there's many things wrong with Twitch. It basically is like a gambling service, and I like how on YouTube there's the subtle sort of thing of like, this is a monetized chat, you can donate if you want to, but you don't have to. And it's not, it's dollars that you're donating, it's not bits. It's basically the reason why casinos and things like that, sorry for this extended rant, the reason why casinos and Twitch use little symbols, bits and things, or like, you know, tokens and things, is to distance yourself from the idea that you're spending money. So you'll spend money and then you'll spend an abnormal amount, because it distances you from the reality of that you're actually spending money that you can be spending on food and things. So there's that. It targets people who are problem gamblers, and also targets young who don't have an understanding of the worth of money. So that's that. Also wanted to do a shout out to Just Write. It's not a D&D channel, it's about writing. But I think it's a really good channel for YouTubers and people who script videos and script and write D&D adventures, things like that, because script writing and D&D adventure writing are very similar. And Just Write is a really good writers channel. It examines movies and TV shows and things like that, and books and literature and stuff, and shows you what their writing techniques are. They sort of strip it down to the bare bones of what an episode, or like why you enjoyed a movie, and they'll tell you why it's paced really well and stuff. So just that. Noxious, for those of you who like Magic the Gathering Online, Magic the Gathering Arena. I watched Noxious. He's a Twitch streamer who is just really entertaining and good at talking about Magic cards and things, and he's really passionate about it. And I just find him easy to listen to. He's got an interesting accent and stuff, and good mannerisms. Quest Givers, DM Scotty and DMG have bound their forces together once more and have created a YouTube channel called Quest Givers, which isn't getting the sort of attention that it deserves. That is ideal for people who are starting out at... terrible writing advice is also very good as well. Linguistically oversight, absolutely true. So Quest Givers is dedicated to people who have started out on D&D, and so new DMs and stuff should really watch that channel. It's got some really good solid tips for all sorts of stuff, aspect of running the game. Roll for Initiative is also another channel that really needs a shout out, because they've been plugging away at producing good content for years now, and they've really hadn't got any sort of some traction. They need some traction on their channel to get it going, and they're good people and they make good content and they really try hard, and I find it quite entertaining. They do good reviews and things like that, talking about books and literature and gaming stuff. They're geeks like us, and I think we should support them. And also Your Pocket GM. You would have seen this link in the community channel, and obviously this is a shameless plug of one of the players of my weekly games, Jared, otherwise known as Jada. So Your Pocket GM is for the Pathfinder people out there. He's bringing Pathfinder content to D&D 5th edition, so he's describing all the monsters and things like that people who have never played Pathfinder are sorely missing out on, because there's some really, really good monster lore and stuff in Pathfinder. As I've always said, I haven't played Pathfinder, and I'm unlikely to, so I'm missing out as well. So I'm really enjoying his content there, because it's very inspiring. He's very relaxing to listen to, kind of like me. And yeah, same sort of similar presentation and stuff. He's not stepping on my toes at all, and so I'm very happy to promote his channel, because I think it's good content. So you should definitely go and check it out. How old am I now, Michael? That's an inappropriate question. I'm now 46. Cheers. AJ's patron is Zugtmoy. No, Scott, definitely not. Hasn't Curse shifted hands to fandom though? Maybe. Does it really make much of a difference though? It's because D&D's definitely in the pocket of Twitch, and I don't think they're going to change anytime soon. Talking of Wrestling Magia and other D&D mages, so one thing that I wanted to talk about is spellcasting history. So after I have... yeah, my CR just goes up, that's true. I don't get older. I'm not farting dust, no, not at all. So I've been reading through, and I printed it out, and I've been reading it. It's the Forgotten Realms History of the Forgotten Realms. A Grand History of the Forgotten Realms is a fantastic book. I recommend, if you're playing D&D in Faerun, pick it up and have a look at it. And also, if you're just world building and you want to look how to do a timeline right, and also it's an interesting product because it really changed the game as far as us sort of creative writers and their relationship with D&D. Because before then, Chris Perkins was kind of in charge of the direction of D&D around 3.5 when this one of the people who worked at Wizards of the Coast picked up on the fact that there was a really good resource that somebody had made online, free for anybody to look at, which was a grand history of the Forgotten Realms. They'd gathered together all the bits and pieces that as tied into specific dates and all of the literature and source books and things like that, and they'd made a resource online that anybody could add to and check out. The Wizards of the Coast then, they had a little discussion amongst themselves. They had a slot open for a product, and they then offered to that person to to turn it into an actual book, and that's what the Grand History of the Realms is. So they added extra stuff to it, zhuzhed it up a little bit, so it wasn't just a dry timeline. And yeah, that's the product. So if you're doing any sort of historical research and things like that, or if you're looking at making timelines and things for your D&D game, that is a really good product. It's a PDF that you can buy from Wizards of the Coast. It's extremely expensive to get the books. They've been, I don't know if they're still in print at all, and I think on Amazon they're something like $100 or something like that, because they're really, really good. People who've got that book generally don't give it up for anything. If you ever spot one, somebody's selling, definitely buy it, because it's worthy investment. And it's really good. Also, while I was reading through it for other projects that I'm working on, have they punched out Dragonlance for 5th edition yet? No, they haven't, Scott. Not yet. Oh, okay. How many subscribers do I need for a Apotheos? Hey, Jimmy, thank you. I've always loved how personal you are with your viewers. You don't get that with Twitch. It's always sad to see favourite YouTubers get too professional and end up in a sterile studio setting. Never change, AJ. I never will. I'll try and improve as best I can within the boundaries of what I do. But I'm always going to be like this. This is just comfortable for me. And I really do feel like I'm sitting down in a pub and just talking with everybody that stopped by. Yeah. Join the Discord. Yeah, absolutely. Gerbil is our head of SAS at the Discord operation. Yep, it seems to have gone through perfectly well, Jimmy. Thank you very much. That was very generous of you. Thank you. I like. It is very encouraging to get super chats from people, I must say. It really does encourage me to do this on the regular. Also, that's added 20 minutes to to the live stream, so we're going to be going for an hour and 20 minutes, as is the tradition here. Every dollar extends the stream for a little bit. Where was I? So I'm doing another project where I need to research a lot of history and stuff. And while I was reading through the Grand History of Realms, I noticed that it doesn't have some other stuff that you can find on the Faerun wiki, which is that there are set dates where spells that we commonly use in Dungeons and Dragons, which have been renamed to cut out the name of, like, you know how you have Otterluke's sphere and stuff like that. Well, most of the spells that you use that are quite common once was spellcasters' names attached to them, because most of the spells were invented during a very productive period at the height of the Netherall Empire in Faerun. Yeah, the sassy admin. The Ancient Giants timeline of Toril. Yeah, I'd love to know more about the Ancient Giants. If anybody's got some really good resources on the 1,000-Year War with the giants, between the giants and the dragons, I'd like to find out. Yes, feed the greed dragon and extend the live stream. Yep, that's the greed dragon's job. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to bring you. I did that video on famous wizards of the original D&D people. So this was player characters of the original people who invented Dungeons and Dragons, and so they're all Greyhawk characters. And people get the impression that that's a video about all famous wizards. It's not. It's just it's specifically about the famous wizards that formed the basis of the lore of the beginning of the Greyhawk era of D&D, so AD&D and 3rd edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition. So now we're into Faerun. It's time to do a video about where these spells came from, who the inventors of spell magic were, and just how recent it actually is, and all of this. And one of my long-term objectives on the channel is Shivan Dragon. Oh, subscribe to PewDiePie anyway. Yeah, I was very happy to see PewDiePie playing Magic the Gathering online. My thoughts on his deck, well, yeah, it's pretty standard. I've got a deck that I'm using at the moment, which is a non-traditional black-white deck, which it basically generates angels. And it uses that spell that wipes out all creatures that are attacking, and gives the opponent land instead. Well, I discovered that you can cast that on yourself. So what you do is you make lots and lots of weenie monsters, attack with them, wipe them all out before they actually attack the other person, which gives them pause, and then you get a big heap of land, and then you can use that to generate angels. Anyway, that's another story. So D&D spellcasters from Faerun is one of the things, and the history of the more sort of recent history of Faerun, and how the nation states and things came to be, and how important Netherall actually was, and what its influence was, particularly along the Sword Coast and things like that, because it was really a central power in the middle of the continent. And when it fell, it really settled the wreckage. That's the one. And when it fell, it really disrupted life as everybody knew it in on Faerun quite seriously. So yeah, that's one of the things that I wanted to bring to you pretty quickly. And Lestray. So there, that's what I wanted to talk about after I've completed the monster manual. So the next video that you're going to be seeing from me will be on the elementals, and it's the start of an elemental series. So what I thought I'd do was begin with an overview of elementals, and also some people were asking me about size categories that are not listed in the current D&D books, and yeah, there's some questions about it. Like it goes up to colossal, and there's a colossal plus, but in Spelljammer there's like an awesome size category and things like that. I've talked about this before, but I was going to talk about it again in the video, because when you're talking about something which is large as a planetoid, which some elementals can be, and certainly some primordials, it's important to talk about scale and how you deal with something like that. How do you actually fight something as big as a Tarrasque, for instance? I haven't reviewed Matt's Stronghold and Followers yet. I was going to wait until I got the actual book, because I didn't want to plug a product if the... I like having the physical book anyway, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. I know that'll leave me late to the game, but yeah. Oh, the elemental Grus. They're like a quasi-elemental. So you've got pure elementals, and you've got para-elementals, and you've got quasi-elementals. And you've got creatures which are very strongly aligned with elemental forces. So, for instance, deep gnomes are very strongly aligned with earth. So they find it easier to summon earth elementals, and that's backed up a lot in the history of the game. Aesir are obviously fire elemental dwarves, that sort of thing. Do you have any spells you created that are above 9th or 7th if you're an illusionist? Who, me? Personally, I haven't made any spells. Symbol Skeletal Deliquescence is a good one. Am I doing a Zugtamoy video? Well, I've got to, obviously, because you guys have been talking about it non-stop, and I've been eating cheese pretty aggressively, so I think I'm going to have to make a Zugtamoy video soon. So bear with me, everybody. I am trying to complete the monster manual, so it'll be elementals and then blah 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 blah. So where's my book of stuff? The list. So I have a huge. So my requested videos list is enormous, as you can see, and I do note them all down, and I will get to them eventually. So let's see. When we started this, I started with the animated objects. Then there was Ankeg, Basilisk, Blights, Cambion, Carrion Crawler, Quartal, Cyclops, Dark Mantle, the Demi-Lich, the Dryder, Elementals, and then it'll be the Empyrean, the Galabdur, Gargoyle, Deep Gnome, Golems, Gorgon, Grimlock, Half Dragons, Harpies, Helmed Horrors, Hippogriffs, Homunculus, Invisible Stalker, Kraken, Magman, Mero, Nightmare, Ogres, Pegasus, Piercer, Pixie, Quaggoth, Revenant, Sahuagin, Salamander, Satyr, Scarecrow, Spectre, Sphinx, Water Weird, Wraith, and Yeti, and then I'll do an overview of the animals at the back of the book, and that will be the complete core monster manual. And then I'll be able to make a playlist with A to Z, all of the creatures in the monster manual listed for everybody, and that will be... I think that'll be pretty cool, having that resource that everybody can just go flip to the page and then flip to a video. Yeah, you should make a list of videos that you need to make, for sure. Having lists and being summon cheese 11th level spell. Mother of cheeses. Is there a psychic elemental? No, there isn't, because psychic stuff is, well, you could say that all elementals are a little bit psychic. They're all sort of spiritual energy beings, but they don't have a soul per se. So you can't resurrect a dead elemental. You may be able to do it with primordials, but not elementals. And they're immortal. They don't die of old age. But I'll be talking about that in the elemental video for sure. Yeah, wow, indeed. So, yeah, creating demiplanes is very much an act of will, because you're going into the astral sea, the astral realms, where thought becomes reality, somewhat. I'm still in AD&D and have even found it adaptable there. Yeah. The half dragon is a great template for a drake. Okay. Ecology of the humanoid races. No. Well, it's kind of part and parcel of the history that I'll be doing as well. I mean, we're familiar with most stuff in regards to humanoid races, I think. So, yeah, I've still got to do stuff on elves and dwarves and things like that. We're getting to those. You need a name for a legendary pool of pure, untainted water in a druid's grove, Tapu Tapu Tia, which means holy, holy white. In Maori. Yeah, an astral construct is the closest to a psychic elemental, I suppose. That's like a self-contained thought construct. What I don't see a lot of people mention, which they do actually exist, are time elementals. And the reason why you don't see them is because they're just so hard to pin down. Like, the only time that you'll find a time elemental is when one has been trapped going to and from the start or end of time. And they don't like it. And there's not much you can do with them, other than ask them questions that they give you absolutely true answers to. Lunet. Nice. Oh, okay. Yeah, Titans, specifically in Forgotten Realms, the Titans were the original sons of Anam. And there's also Empyreans and stuff, so they're proto-gods or the children of gods. So when I talk about the Empyreans, it's going to be an interesting video, because the listing in the monster manual is really a template for what an Empyrean can be. So you add a lot of flavor onto that. So that's the basic crunch, and there's a lot of fluff that you can add to Empyreans to turn them into demigods and things like that, epic heroes. Yeah, there's time elementals in the Tome of Beasts for sure. Can a vampire overcome their weaknesses? They really, yeah, it's kind of like a curse, so they can work around them. Stay away from my cheese bug. It's not yours, it's mine. Psychic elementals, yeah. I mean, if you want to create a psychic elemental, it's pretty easy. You give it the same sort of stats as a wind elemental, and basically make all of its wind type attacks force attacks, essentially, and give it the ability to bamboozle people. So dominate, charm person, command, that sort of thing, and then otherwise it'll be telekinetic attacks, TK attacks. So push and shove. What's the fundamental difference between gods and primordials, specifically having to do with their creation? So primordials were not created, and this is one of the things that I talk about in the introduction to elementals as well, in regards to time in the D&D universe. Obviously, we know that spellcasters can use spells to travel in time, like time stop and things like that. So you can travel to alternate dimensions, parallel dimensions which exist forward or backward in time. That's the best way of dealing with time travel in a game, by the way, is to travel to an alternate dimension where there's a copy of you in that dimension. Because anything that you do in the storyline will not cause paradoxes, because you're not disrupting your own timeline. Like, you can't go back and kill your own father and disappear, because you're in a parallel dimension and it's not your father and there's an alternate version of you there. Or possibly it's an alternate dimension where you, as a character, died at birth or something like that. So there's no conflict there. So that's the best way of handling time travel in games, is it's a parallel dimension, not actually your own time stream. And when you think about it, traveling in your own time stream is extremely difficult, because the moment you jump forward or backward in time, the planet is no longer there. It's moved. Everything's moving in an active universe. If you're jumping to a parallel universe, you're jumping to a world that it started off at a different point and now it's at a different time, but it's in the same location that you've jumped to. So infinite possibilities. There's a possibility that the planet was actually right there, but everything happened 6 hours before then, sort of thing, if that makes any sense. Whereas if you're jumping in your own time stream, you also have to teleport an enormous distance at the same time, at the same moment, to get there and be on the planet. Otherwise, you're floating in interstellar space. Tricky. So that's something that a lot of people don't think about. As for... I sort of got off track there. If you're talking about the ability for spellcasters to travel in time, obviously any race with sufficient power and technology can go back in time and change the original conditions of the universe of Dungeons and Dragons. So the answer is, what came first? Aboleth, primordials, gods? We don't know, because the original conditions of the universe have changed multiple times. So what it is now is, you could say, bang, all of a sudden everybody's there, and it was like there was the dawn races sort of fighting it out at the beginning of time. But they didn't start there. They may have started later on in the evolution of the universe and then gone back in time, and like, for instance, the Mind Flayers have gone back in time and invented themselves. So we don't know what the original starting conditions of Mind Flayers were. We don't know if anything created the primordials. We don't know what created the Phlogiston Sea or the spheres that contain the realms. We don't know. Also, Slard make it kind of difficult as well. There's a particular Slard lord that gets more powerful the closer it goes to the start or the end of the universe. Time elementals, same sort of thing. They congregate at the start of the universe because of the ability to travel down all the different potential possibilities of the universe. All these alternate universes, they basically zip back and forth, because that's where they all branch out from, and they feed on the potential probable realities. So yeah. So the answer is, what created primordials? We don't know, but they basically self-generated. So they're usually quite unique. There's no two primordials that are exactly alike. Yeah, exactly. It's like World of Warcraft. The old gods changed the timeline, so the story you play in isn't the actual true timeline. There's no true timeline anymore. It may be possible to go to parallel dimensions, which are the original timeline. So so you could say that you're in a parallel universe where this set of conditions exist. The moment somebody goes back, see you later, Redwater. So the moment somebody goes back and changes the original start conditions of the universe, it branches off and creates a whole new set of probabilities and timelines in parallel dimensions. If that makes sense. Alita Battle Angel, cool film, excellent. Nice to know, Gadzooks. Hello, nice to see you. Who came first in order of cause and effect? That is probably a better question. Yeah, much better question. So the who came first is the primordials. So the primordials are massively powerful. They are elemental creatures. So the elemental planes exist. The inner planes, you could say, exist parallel to the positive material plane. So there is an infinite amount of energy that pours out of the positive plane. It pours through a lens, you could say, that changes it to a different elemental state, and then it produces an enormous amount of an endless amount of that element. So there is the inner planes, which is pure fire, pure earth, pure air, pure water, and it is very, very hostile to any other form of life. And this is what I talk about in the elementals video, is that there's a massive amount of the elemental planes which you cannot go to, which is the province of elementals and elementals alone. Elementals and primordials that can exist there. So we're talking, the elemental plane of fire is like, most of it is like the inside of a sun. It's like the inside of a star. It's extremely hostile. If your character cannot withstand going to the heart of a star, then they can't go to the heart of the elemental plane of fire. They'll just get immolated. Cause came first, then effect? Yeah, kind of. It's not really a chicken. Yeah, the chicken and egg thing sort of breaks down quite a bit. What came first? Well, dinosaurs. They laid eggs. Anyway, so the primordials basically produced. They found a way of going into this phlogiston sea, which at one point was a boundary between the inner planes and the outer planes, and the outer planes were a formless void, a mist, because there wasn't anything thinking and projecting hopes and dreams and will force into it at that point. But as soon as basically living creatures started to think and dream and comprehend themselves as individuals and have hopes and dreams that were imaginative and not based on reality alone, they started to change that stuff, and that stuff became the outer planes. Meanwhile, there's the phlogiston sea in between, this boundless vortex of nebula rainbows and stuff of potential. And at some point, some primordial must have created these spheres of crystal, indestructible crystal, well, nearly indestructible crystal, and created bounded places where they created planets and stars, and they just became obsessed with creating these things for some reason. And these became the planets and things in the settings that we're used to. And that's the basis of Spelljammer, how you travel between the spheres and through the phlogiston sea to get to them, and why D&D space is quite different from our space, And also there's these other interdimensional planes, and the bordering transient planes between them. So you have the Shadowfell, and you've got the Feywild, and you've got the outer planes, and you've got the plane of life and death, the conduit of soul energy, which is the ethereal plane where ghosts and things go, and thoughts and memory go. And you've got the astral plane, which is the plane of that leads to the gods and stuff. And you kind of skip between them. And you've got limbo, which kind of exists between the inner planes and the outer planes. So yeah, there you go. And we don't know how this all became separated from each other. It's just, yeah, whatever the border conditions are. Basically, it comes down to, this is a fantasy game, and DMs made it, writers made it. That's all the answer you really need. Sort of like reasoning what the cause and effect in Dungeons and Dragons kind of breaks down eventually, because it is a fantasy fiction realm. You want a Spelljammer book? Well, yeah. Mordenkainen and Stone of Foes mentions some spelljamming ships. A demi-plane of time. Yeah, well, time's kind of wrapped up in all of it. Space-time, you could say. They may have just plane shifted. I was asking if you could do it without a 7th level spell and take the entire ship. Yeah. Hey, how to D&D? How's it going? You're most welcome, John. Anytime. So yeah, talking about the elemental planes and the elementals themselves, they're quite different. You could say that they're primal original form of existence in the D&D multiverse, and thinking, living, soul-infused creatures came later and changed a lot of things. What would the inner plane of Earth be like? It's Rock, yeah, rock. It's limitless amounts of all types of different minerals, solid minerals. So it's not just plain straight grey rock. It's a dizzying array of massive crystals and geodes and all that sort of stuff. One of the interesting things, yeah, I'm using OBS to stream. So one of the interesting things is that the elemental plane of rock and water and things like that aren't bound, subject to immense amounts of pressure, because otherwise it would just all be magma, right? Oh, hopefully my stream health is okay. Am I still streaming? Have I paused? It says my stream health is okay. Am I still streaming, or is it frozen? It's frozen on my screen, which is weird. Sorry about the lag, everyone. I don't know what caused that. I'm not on fiber, unfortunately. Yeah, sorry about that. At what time does the time element go to time work? Time. Yeah, I know I'm still streaming. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Dawn Selling. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not on fiber. I'm on ADSL because I live out in the country, and it hasn't reached here yet. It does slightly better than normal though, because I'm quite close to the exchange box, so there's not a lot of copper wire between here and there, but it still does make quite a difference. It'd actually be better if there was a Wi-Fi transceiver directly on the fiber and it was just Wi-Fiing to here. Well, it doesn't make much of a difference, John. When you get into fiber, everything's traveling at light speed. It just comes down to the exchanges. Oh, the epic level handbook? Yeah. Pitbull snoring. Out in the sticks, it's true. Still, it's really nice being able to live out in the country and work from the orchard here. I cannot tell you how nice it is not living in the city. About the only major change you have really is not being able to pop out and visit your friends all the time, but that's okay because I work so hard on YouTube and stuff that I very rarely went out anyway, which a lot of friends didn't really understand. I don't think they do still. It's a huge dedication making videos every day or two because you're constantly working on it. Like if I'm not making a video within a day or two of making the last one, I start getting antsy. Like I start craving, jonesing for videos, and I'm constantly thinking about D&D, constantly. If you're using OBS to stream live, you can adjust the camera view to remove the black bars on the side. Yeah, I know, but there's nothing much to see. This is the best it is. Maybe I should make a border or something and put something fancy around the side, but most people are watching this on their mobile devices anyway, so they're used to seeing black bars and weird angles. Are you worried about burnout? That is a good question, actually. I get that a lot. People asking me, since I produce so many videos. Because I do it full time, like this is my job, I actually limit the amount of videos that I make. Otherwise, I'd be on all the time. So I'm streaming an online game which is one of the 2 games that I run every week. I've got these live streams, which I do every weekend. I've got at least 2 monster videos, which I produce every week as well. If I really pulled out all the stops, I could probably be producing a monster ecology video every 2 days if I wanted to. But that's just too much for people. They just don't want to watch that much stuff. You'd have to be like one of the 1,000 or so really die-hard fans who watch anything that I produce. As for Burnout, the main differences between doing a D&D lore video channel and somebody who's like PewDiePie, or like PewDiePie's got a pretty good formula because he basically just turns the camera on and rants at the camera. He is the content, so to speak. Somebody like Boogie 2998, or 2988, was this? Yeah. I think quite a few YouTubers kind of struggle, and they end up trending a particular topic. Like they see somebody else make a topic and they're like, oh, I'll make a video about that. And it's very like their videos don't date very well. Like if you went back a year and watched something by PewDiePie, it would seem like, you know, what's he talking about, an old game or something like that. Whereas D&D, it's eternal. Like people will be able to go back and watch the video on the Flump, for instance, and it's just as relevant now as it was when I made it. And I've got all of this content. There's a constant outstream of new products and things like that to bring, like Tome of Beasts, Tome of Horrors, Creature Codex. I haven't even touched on these really, and it's taken me this long just to get close to finishing the Monster Manual. So I have an unlimited amount of source material to talk about. Not only that, but I can talk about making adventures and running NPCs and creating your own monsters and various aspects of the game. And there's, people seem to have an endless fascination with talking about D&D cosmology as well, which is a lot of what these weekend live streams is all about. So no, I don't feel like I'm burning out at all. This was my hobby that I used to relax after work, like, you know, my slave job. And now I get to do it full time. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh, what song gets you in the mood to play D&D and dig up lore? And when I'm writing, I like listening to Rock Shop and Tintinmoller, and there's this one called Alpha Male, which is a song that I quite often play right before I start writing a script. It really gets me in the mood. Although it's called Alpha Male, it's just there's no lyrics, it's just a song track. So yeah, definitely check that one out. I like listening to the soundtrack to Krull, the movie Krull, and basically James Horner's orchestra stuff is really good. Yeah. You're so tired of learning new editions. Well, you don't have to learn new editions, and the old editions are unchanging. They're now locked in time. So the good thing about being somebody who plays and is happy with playing an old edition of the game is that nobody's going to mess it up and change it anymore. You know, it would be kind of weird if we just stayed on 5th edition forever, and then in 6 years' time it'll be like, are we playing 5th edition with all the modifications that we've made to it, or are we just going to make a 6th edition and start from scratch? I reminded you that you actually own the Tome of Beasts. Yeah. You haven't cracked it open in months? Oh, what a crime. It's a great book. Jello struggles with that. Yeah. There's a lot of YouTubers who struggle with coming up with content, and I think they need to listen to their audience more. Like, I make monster ecology videos because you guys told me to. Krull's an excellent movie. 2 Steps from Hell, Sky? Yeah, 2 Steps from Hell do some really good stuff. The original theme from Conan the Barbarian? Yep. Yeah. I had to put that in the video on Demogorgon because it just fits so well. He is the Conan of Demonkind. Really? Krull scared the hell out of you? Oh, I'm not surprised actually. Well, yeah, the way the invaders die, for instance, with their head cracking open and some horrible parasite coming out, that's pretty freaky. Yeah, they are on the pricey side, it's true. Yep. Buying D&D books is kind of it's a luxury, let's face it. It is a luxury. You can get by perfectly well with the core 3 books, and that'll do you, really. And you don't even really need the Monster Manual for most, not the Dungeon Master's Guide for the most part. You can just get by with the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to play D&D. The Slayers and Krull, yeah. Poodle? Yeah, I really enjoy making the monster ecology videos. Yeah, it's a high-priced hobby because it's because these are reference books. So, you know, that's why we were so upset when 5th edition produced those books that were low quality. We were so upset. Yeah, at least it's not completely reliant on miniatures like Warhammer 40k, because that's pricey. Yeah, absolutely. So when we played D&D back in the old days, we used to listen to the soundtrack to Labyrinth, Pink Floyd, Melissa Etheridge. I don't know. I don't know why. Let's see. In Living Colour, Jimi Hendrix. I know that not a lot of this is D&D related, but this is just the soundtrack of D&D for my early existence. Prince, and various others. What's your favourite edition? My favourite edition is always the current edition. So 5th edition, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the best edition we've ever had. And you can argue that, obviously, and I'm not doubting your opinion is valid. I'm just saying that from my perspective, D&D is, for 5th edition, is one of the best games to run. I also really enjoyed 4th edition. It was a very easy, streamlined system to run. It was a very easy and streamlined system for people to pick up and play, but it was fundamentally broken because it didn't deal with power creep. 5th edition finally deals with power creep. It has bounded accuracy, which means that what you play in the early stages of the game are just as valid in the later stages of the game. So goblins are always a threat in 5th edition D&D. Because things can always hit other things. Nothing's completely impervious. So yeah, I think 5th edition is one of the best for sure. Man of War and Iron Maiden, yeah. AC/DC, Flock of Seagulls, not so much. Led Zeppelin, of course. As for my favourite expansion for D&D 5th edition so far, I would say Volos and Mordenkainen's are probably the best. It's a toss-up between Mordenkainen's and Volos, actually. And Ravnica, I have to say I'm really pleasantly surprised. Hey, Ken, thank you very much. Wow, we're going to be going for quite a long time today. I would say that Ravnica is one of the best. Like they seem to be learning what they're doing pretty well. Like Dungeons of the Mad Mage and Ravnica are really good expansions. They're really good source books. Ravnica's got a huge monster section, and the background lore on the setting is just enough to get you going. Also, if you've bought Ravnica, you've got huge amounts of resources from Magic the Gathering. The lore and stuff for Magic the Gathering is basically right there in the form of wikis and things. So if you need to expand your fluff of your setting, you've got all the crunch you need. You've got all the rules and stuff that you need to run the game. But if you want additional lore and things like that, and characters and events and plots and stuff, go to the Magic the Gathering wikis and read up on the lore of the setting. And that's all you need. Away you go. They didn't feel the need to repeat all of that stuff in a source book because they've got to keep the page count down. But what they did do is they provided a heap of new resources for monsters and things like that you can put in the game. Also, they've supported it very well on D&D Beyond. So, yeah. Keep up the good work, boss. You got me interested in D&D again. Thanks. Since I was a teen, have you played Kingmaker? And if you have, what did you think of it? I haven't played it and I haven't seen it. Ken, sorry to say. Seems fairly popular. Oh, I'm lagging again. Dang. Bit of lag today, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. I shall have to make sure that everybody in the house is not using the internet while I'm streaming. Dio. Ronnie James Dio. Yeah, Dio's fantastic. Rainbow. It would be nice if 5th edition explored Forgotten Realms a bit more. Yeah, what we really need is we need a big resource book. Notifications are buggy. Well, that's weird because I put in like plenty of notification for this one. Pretty much as soon as I finished the last stream, I scheduled this one, so people should have got reminders and things like that. If you're not getting notifications from my channel of uploads and things, unsubscribe and then resubscribe again, because the YouTube algorithm will automatically mute channels that you've been subscribed to for months and months and months, because the overall general trend is for people to stop watching channels that they've been subscribed to for months and months. So they just assume that everybody does that because it's a stupid AI. Get off the phone, I need to get on the internet. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, there was a big problem with the Magic the Gathering cards being made out of cheap cardboard and they warp with moisture, which is, considering that they're expecting you to buy these as collectible cards and they're basically worthless as soon as you take them out of the pack. Oh, that is shockingly bad. Shockingly bad. So Wizards of the Coast has done a lot of things right lately, but I almost feel like it's a lightning rod situation where they're just hoping that something will strike. They're hammering a lot of cheap pegs in the ground and hoping that lightning's going to strike one of them. Definitely has struck 5th edition. But they really screwed the pooch when they produced the 5th edition source books. They almost sunk their own bloody franchise with those shitty books and the shitty cards, the paper stock. Stop manufacturing stuff in China. Stop it. Manufacture stuff in the US. Get your book manufacturing and support your own bloody industry in the US, please. I think it boggles the mind, right? Because if you live in a foreign country and you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, particularly with Wizards of the Coast, Wizards of the Coast is very American-centric. Very American-centric. They don't run events and things like that for people outside the country. It's almost like we just have to do it ourselves. And yet they're perfectly happy to manufacture all their products in China and sell them to the US. It's a little bit two-faced, I think. Mini rant. Then we call it the standard Forgotten Realms timeline and the 4th edition timeline. Yeah, the Spellplay timeline. Yeah. 4th edition. 4th edition was all over the place. One of the problems with 4th edition, which I've been talking about lately, is that because they didn't handle the power creep, what they did is they patched it. So the patch that they came up with is you had, say you got a bunch of gnolls. You got at the 5th level character is dealing with like a bunch of low level gnolls, but at high level play, let's say you want to use gnolls, the 5th level, the low level gnolls are completely useless. They can't do anything to the player characters whatsoever. So there's the power creep of the characters means that they have to have high-powered magical items and they have to have armor and all this sort of stuff in order for the game to be relevant and working. And so you need a whole bunch of high-level, high-powered gnolls. But here's the logical disconnect: where are these gnolls at the early level of the game? Where's the 12th level gnolls? Where's the 20th level liches? Where's all this stuff? See, in D&D 5th edition, these creatures will exist in the setting, and if you see me playing the regular weekly game, they do encounter high-level characters and high-level monsters and things, even though they're low level. These characters are 6th or 7th level, and they're in the City of Brass, which is really a high CR area, and yet the game is progressing. It's the risks are very high because if they get into a conflict with a dragon or something they're going to get pasted, but you're not restricted in any way from doing that. D&D is frowned on in China. Well, maybe. Yeah, China's chickens are coming home to roost a little bit. They've been very aggressive against other countries, and I think it's if it wasn't for the fact that their government cracks down on information so tightly and spreads disinformation about other countries being aggressive towards China for no reason, yeah. So anybody who is from China and just happens to see this, it's really a case of other countries defending themselves from China's interests rather than anybody being aggressive against China. Nobody wants to get into a fight with China. Nobody wants to get into a fight with China. But we're sick and tired of China hacking into websites, stealing industrial secrets, blatantly ripping off copyrights, and basically fucking over everybody that they can in order to get ahead in any way they see fit. It's not okay. It's evil, and we will fight against it. stop doing it. And stop, like, just accepting everything that your government tells you. Also, America. Stop putting up with that shit as well. Honestly. But no more politics. Adventure is capitalistic, yeah. Well, they're adventuring for the greater good. Save the village against the evil outsiders. Morrowind. Oh. Yeah, well, in 5th edition, you can beef up the Trask if you want to. Like, you can make a 30th level Demogorgon, for instance. I think it's good that you start off with like an 18th CR Demogorgon and he quickly progresses to being 20th, 30, 40 CR as you fight him, and you realise there's no point in fighting Demogorgon because he just gets more powerful the more destruction and aggression that you turn against him. And he doesn't respond well to hugs. It's a damn good point for monster levels. Fallout 4 had a mod to just uncap the levels. It just works. Yeah. Inquisitions on Tieflings and Dragonborn. Nice. Imagine if Sauron's One Ring was made in China. The whole movie would be 5 minutes long. Oh, Gimli goes, smash! The ring shatters into 1,000 pieces. Well, we weren't expecting that. Gandalf is like, normally those rings should be indestructible. I don't know what happened. Build the magic barrier. Yeah, high CR monsters are meh by default. Yeah, you've really got to support, like, you don't need a high CR monster. You don't need every monster to be a standalone fight against a party. The whole point of like having gnolls, for instance, being a relatively low CR is that they exist in groups, and groups in 5th edition will kill you really quickly. It's a matter of number of incoming attacks versus outgoing attacks. If they find it very easy to hey Ruben, if they find it very easy to hit you, then a large group of them hitting you is going to wipe out your hit points very quickly. So groups of monsters in D&D is really how you increase the difficulty of the fight. You don't need to increase the difficulty of the monsters themselves. You just have more of them. Why haven't you tried out Pathfinder Kingmaker yet? Pathfinder. I played 4th edition. I didn't play Pathfinder. And none of my friends did, unfortunately. Yeah, Dragon Turtle. Yeah. Enough about China. We don't want to talk about politics here. We're talking about D&D. Do Lantern Archons still bypass damage reduction? Possibly. Yeah, so very, very lawful creatures tend to bypass things which avoid damage and stuff. They just blast straight through it. Wargrove or Wargroove is an awesome real-time fantasy game. Fantasy Age also is a very good alternative to D&D 5th edition if you like that sort of thing. Like Fantasy Age it's got a slightly different take on how to handle dice rolling. So you basically roll to see if you get these feats that you can do. So it's very much around the idea of rolling dice to do something heroic, and then you get to choose what sort of heroic thing you can do from a set list. And it works very well as a campaign setting. I mean, as a not a campaign setting. It's very much a homebrew thing. I think it's designed around Dragon Age, the video game. They've got a source book for that setting, but Fantasy Age by itself is a setting agnostic rule system. AJ, I know you have problems with celestial unicorns as presented in the monster manual, but under what circumstances would you see them acceptable in your games? Well, there's celestial lions, there's celestial ocelots, there's celestial mice, there's celestial unicorns. But there's also fey unicorns and terrestrial lions and ocelots and mice. So it's perfectly okay to say that there is a celestial reflection, kind of like a Shadowfell or a Feywild reflection of existing creatures. So think of it as like a template, but there's also a celestial version as well. See you later, Mark. Oh, is that a good day as in hello, or a good day as in goodbye? Phelan plays Pathfinder. Yep, makes sense. How do you feel about how they changed the astral projection spell? Could the old one work for inner ethereal planes if you can get there? Yeah, essentially. I lost and you're a very angry dragon. Draconic rage. Can you add magic effects to things like swords and such? Yeah, you still can. Crafting magic items. In fact, there needs to be a little bit more information on crafting magic items, I think. Do you have any advice on how to run D&D game with only one player without them getting brutalized by the nearest goblin nest? Yeah, have them run multiple characters. In the early edition of the game, everybody ran multiple characters as the norm. So everybody had 2 or 3 characters. These days, there seems to be some sort of taboo against it. I say absolutely run more than one character. It's awesome fun. It also encourages you to not play a broadcast style game, like a critical role type game where none of the characters can ever die. Definitely, character death is one of the coolest things in D&D. The fact that your characters can die makes it different from a movie or a TV show. D&D is not supposed to be a TV series. There is supposed to be very, very real risks and rewards for your character, and the risk is character death. But your character deaths are also very memorable, and making memories with your friends is really the entire point of Dungeons & Dragons. They say there's no winning or losing conditions of D&D. Nonsense. Your character can die, and you have to stop and remake a new character. So you lose those plots and storylines associated with that particular character, which is a net loss, which is a loss. So character death in D&D is just as important as anything else. And running multiple, if your characters and your DM in particular seem loath to kill any characters in the game, make everybody run multiple characters, and it will quickly change the dynamic. Also, it's very good for low-level campaigns and stuff where you feel free to bring really dizzyingly difficult monsters and encounters, and the characters and the players will go, well, I need multiple characters because there's a good chance that half of them will die during these fights. So the fights become real interesting. Everybody's very much immersed if there's a good chance that your character will get one-shotted. So yeah, you need multiple characters. Not only that, small groups, online groups, it's a lot easier to schedule a game and get everybody together if there's a small group of players and they're playing multiple characters. Okay, so give it a go. Start trending this and the benefits of it. How do I feel about 5th edition astral projection versus previous editions? Well, I don't honestly think that I've even looked up astral projection once, because it hasn't come up in any game that I've run so far. So that's kind of the same with a lot of things in 5th edition. We just don't generally use astral projection at all. I haven't had any wizard characters use astral projection yet. If it does, then I'll look it up and I'll probably compare it and maybe use an earlier edition or home rule it. So I can't really answer that question, Dragon Turtle, because I don't have any information on it. I don't know everything about D&D, unfortunately. Mithras Classic Fantasy is D&D monsters and spells, etc. with RuneQuest combat system, which sounds freaking awesome and lethal. Thoughts? Sounds good. RuneQuest is famous for its added complexity and like their charts and tables and things. I think they influenced a lot of Middle-earth roleplay as well in the early editions. How do I feel about 2 of your characters having to interact with each other? That's absolutely fine. One of the best role-playing situations I ever had was when a bunch of characters went through a dimensional mirroring trap. So parallel dimensions mixed together. So parallel dimension versions of the same characters interacted with each other, and things in their pasts had been slightly different. And at one point I sat back for a good 5 minutes and all of the people around the table were just talking in character to each other, and at one point I looked over and Hazel was talking to herself. She was having a conversation between her 2 different characters. She was totally immersed in the situation. So it's perfectly fine and valid. There's nothing wrong with that. And that gives you a good situation where you can explore that sort of gameplay. If everybody's just running a single character, then maybe they won't. So they'll miss out.
Hey Gadzooks, thank you. I got a Treant mini for Valentine's Day present. My players are all good. Any idea to find a place for it in my game? They definitely wouldn't fight it. So have it as a high-level NPC, or have it as a construct, or a curse, or a spirit. So something that pops up all the time, like if it's like an elemental ghost that can only, or a nature ghost, or a natural force that creates a body for itself out of plants and things around them whenever they need to talk to it. It could be a spell that they summon. It could be a magical item, like a wand that transforms into a treant. It could be a cursed chest or a box. So you put some valuable item into it. It absorbs the power of the magical item and transforms into a treant and runs away. And now they have to chase it across the plains. It could be an actual living portal to the Feywild that opens up to let them through and then closes up and actually follows them around. So it persists. It could be an plant elemental that repairs their ship or spelljamming vessel or something. It could be it could be like a sarcophagus that somebody has put into when they're healing and recuperating, and they can walk around in this sort of power suit of plant material. That's part of like a resurrection or raise dead spell. So they're mostly dead. Lots of ideas. So the city of Greyhawk has just annexed the gnarly forest. Good or bad? I don't know. Bad. Bad for the gnarly forest. I don't know everything about D&D. Blasphemy! It's true. I don't know everything. D7D politics. What's your stance on fudging rolls as a DM? I don't like to do it personally. I do occasionally roll a dice just at random to see whether it's over 10 or below 10 or whatever. It does influence the way I think about things. I'm one of these people that flips a dice and looks at the result, and if I don't like what the result was, then it makes up my mind about what I wanted to do in the first place, sort of thing. My big bad evil guy is trying to start a new giant dragon war. What would you see as being ways to do this? So giving one of the advantages that the giants had for a very long time, which allowed the giants to sort of just relax into senescence. So they just sort of, their society just ebbed along and bubbled. They didn't really grow. They didn't really regress over anymore. But the giant civilization is done and dusted. It's never going to reach its former glory unless a certain bunch of conditions are met. One is if they manage to open up portals and bring in giants from other dimensions. So if there's if there's some sort of great disruption on the outer planes of Isgard, or there's some sort of invasion which causes an empire to open up portals to other worlds and giants pour in from other dimensions, then that will revitalize their civilization and they'll start needing more resources. So they'll go on a more aggressive war stance. And they will start encroaching on the territory of dragons. Dragons in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Faerun are no longer subject to the Dragon Rage, so they can start to assert their dominance once more, and they'll be looking at their former glory days where they had elven kingdoms that were ruled by dragons. The giants will start looking at dwarven civilizations and thinking, well, you were once our servants. You copy a lot of our mannerisms, traits and technology, so rightfully it's all ours. We taught you smithing and all this sort of stuff, and so they will start eyeing up those territories. And so it doesn't really take a lot to set off that sort of conflict again. Bringing in other dimensional reinforcements is certainly one way of doing it. Dragons, it's a bit more difficult because they don't really work well together in the first place. Particularly when the Dragon Rage was ongoing, because they were wary of each other, because they could go crazy and kill each other even if they were allies at any moment. When the King Killer Star flew over the Faerun again. But now that that's gone, they've got the influence of Bahamut and Tiamat kicking back up again, because don't forget the dragons had a civil war which split the chromatic and metallic dragons into two different factions. They weren't always like that. So yeah, it's kind of complicated. If you had chromatic and metallic dragons started working together, then the giants would get very worried. But again, their numbers are very few, so they would start looking at other dimensions to bring in reinforcements as well, or some other artificial means of increasing their population, which would again cause pressure through resources on other civilizations. So it's not looking good for younger mortal races in either event. Elven spelljamming ships are plants. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, dwarves would not appreciate pointing out you guys basically based on giant tech. Hey, Jimmy, thank you. Dragons. You know what I miss? Slaves. Yeah, it's true. They'll look at their kobolds and they'll be like, they're too agreeable. I like good subjugated slaves. Blue dragons. They did increase their numbers. Yeah, it's true. Particularly the dwarves. The dwarves had the Thunder Twins thing a few generations back, where Moradin basically went, "There's not enough dwarves, so every dwarven birth is going to be a twin this year," sort of thing. So there's all these dwarven twins suddenly. Yeah. Yeah, the dragonflight. Yeah, exactly. You can imagine how terrifying it would be if all of a sudden 20 red dragons showed up. I mean, what do you do? You know what the mortal race is going to do? They go and knock on the giant's door and say, "Hey man, have you got any weapons, like some rocks and behears that we could borrow?" And the dragon's like, "Yeah, maybe." Any advice on creating a homebrew setting? It's kind of a personal experience, really. I would say that you don't need to do as much work as you think you need to do. Borrow some maps off the internet. Start small. As your characters start to explore the world, write in the details. You don't need to create everything before they begin. Have a general idea of what the world is, what the general civilizations and stuff are, where things are located. Some underlying themes which are going on across national borders and stuff, but keep things fairly local for small time play, and then as the characters progress in level, for whatever milestones you set up in the story, then they start to become more invested in what's going on in the world and start to influence it themselves. Not only that, but have a world where the characters actually matter, that they're quite important, that they even if the players are interested in playing like murder hobos who don't want any ties to background and stuff like that. They're all started out as orphans. Their parents were killed by orcs in a raid or whatever. As they progress in level, they just come to the attention of other people. Their deeds are famous. When they go and kill a monster, that monster's been terrorizing the place for decades, and so they are known, and that renown starts to build obligations to people. So you will have people showing up and saying, "Oh, great hero, please save us from blah, 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 and we'll give you everything we have." And then when they go, "Right, job's done, take the stuff," and they're like, "Where are you going? We need you." And you'll have champions and things like that who'll flock to them as well. It's like, well, there's a dragon that I can't kill personally, but I thought we'd combine forces. Next thing you know, they're traipsing off with an NPC across the to another area. Yeah, get a city map off Google and modify it. Yeah, particularly the old Italian cities and things like that, the walled cities in Europe. Those are really good. Yeah, Dragonheart is a sad movie. Makes you feel sad for dragons. Once there were many dragons. Have a great day, Nat. Nice to see you. Yeah, TV Tropes is a great site for that sort of thing. Yeah, find a political thing going on, or some sort of situation in the real world, and make a reflection of that in your D&D game. That's pretty good. Find out what bothers your players in their day-to-day life. If they've got a supervisor they don't like, you know, they've got some product that they're supporting and the company's doing shit they don't like. Reflect that in the game and allow them the ability to beat their demons in a simulated form. You know, it's supposed to be a cathartic sort of exercise that we share together. And if you're having problems in the game and it's jeopardizing your friendship, you need to sort out your friendship. You don't resolve that sort of thing with game rules and stuff. And certainly don't go on message forums and things and talk about your problem gamer when it's actually your friend. You know, that's ridiculous. Unless you really, you know, there is a problem with your friendship and D&D's kind of brought it to the light, then that's kind of a valid thing. I've had situations like that where a friendship that started through D&D ended through D&D. That's fairly common. Void Giants and Kobold Press. Yep, absolutely. That would be in the Tome of Beasts. Voidling. Or is it under Giant? Giants 222. Oh, I love this thing as well. The animated bear trap. Nulljack. That thing's terrifying. There's a bunch of giants. The Flab Giant. That's a particularly good one. There's kind of legendary giants in here. Must be in the other one. Hooja! Creature Codex. Boy, these are massive tomes. I was thinking that I might buy a one of the new artwork box sets and give that away to possibly some patrons when I hit 40,000 subscribers. What do you guys reckon? Giants. 180. Lots of ghouls in this one. Actually, this one's really good for just like lots of different stuff. Are there Void Giants even in here? Kickers, Blood Giant, Cave Giant, Haunted Giant, Mountain Giant. Ah, there it is, Void Giant. Wow, good artwork. Covered in writhing tattoos, the giant whispers strange words to itself. They are servants of the void. The great void dragons maintain their primary lairs in the void, the place of nothingness. However, some also keep lairs in the material world. These lairs are often empty of dragons, but still contain the great wealth that void dragons collect. Void giants, powerful servants of the void dragons, keep their masters' treasures safe. Wow! So in D&D lore, that'd be traitorous. Giants that work with dragons. Blasphemy. The main conflict between giants and dragons really comes down to the fact that they're sort of giants are on the primordial side of things, and dragons were kind of an affront to the primordials. They're created by celestial forces using primordial power, and the primordials didn't like it. So there was always bound to be a conflict between the giants and dragons. I have this D&D YouTuber I'm stalking, but he's obsessed with cheese. It's true. I'm obsessed with cheese. Well, giants that work for dragons? Heresy! I know. Elminster, yeah. I'm not really a huge fan of Elminster, to be honest. I haven't read any of the novels with Elminster. Maybe if I did, I'd probably get a better perspective. I've got some audiobooks of Ed Greenwood stuff, but I've mostly been reading R.A. Salvatore lately. I'm reading through the entire Drizzt omnibus, so I've got like 20 books to read. Is Io Astrogoth still alive, or is he still dead, or both? Both. So Io, like most greater gods, can be dead in one realm of existence and still alive in others. And Io is one of those trans-dimensional, multi-dimensional beings. So Io in Forgotten Realms is dead, but is still existing in other places as Astrogoth or Io. Tiamat, same sort of way. Tiamat exists in multiple planes of existence at the same time, as does Bahamut. So they are greater gods in that respect. So they may not, and that's the other weird thing, they may not be in your particular local dimension. Your god may not be a greater god, but they are a greater god somewhere else, which makes it interesting. Which RA book are you on at the moment? I am reading The Legacy, which is good so far. I'm about halfway through. It's a bit of a slow book, really. There's a fight at the start of it, but it's kind of a slow burn. It's very much about Drizzt and his family, and Drizzt being pulled back into conflict with Menzo Baranzan. So it talks a lot about the motivations and stuff of drow houses, and introducing Jarlaxle. So this is really the introduction of Jarlaxle in the story, and also the obsession of Artemis and Treri and stuff. But I don't want to give you any spoilers. What is Io? Is he a dragon or an alien? Can Ao die? We don't know. Probably not. Io is a dragon and he's an entity. So he's in his natural form. He can take on the draconic form if he wants to, but he's not necessarily that in his natural form. In his natural form, he's just a big glowing energy being. Everything can die, yeah. Nothing's eternal. Only darkness. In the 41st millennium, a space marine fights a chaos space marine sorcerer with a spell. The space marine is sent hurling from the warp and then awakes. He's in a D&D village, and there are Elder heresy. Yeah. I actually like that theme. I came up with during 4th edition, I came up with a 4th edition conversion of some basic Warhammer 40k stuff, and I actually had a test session, a couple of sessions, where the players were playing Space Marines that landed on Faerun, and they just went around destroying everything. It was very good. They just disapproved of everything. When you played 2nd edition and used deities and demigods, did you ever use the Cthulhu, Melnibonian, or Nerwan mythos? Keep in mind these pulled from the book due to copyright. I use elements of that stuff, obviously, to inform my own D&D games. In earlier edition stuff, we didn't actually run anything but homebrew. We didn't run Greyhawk as it was written or anything. So my early experience of D&D was entirely homebrew. I think one of the only things that we ever played by the book was the starting adventure in Heroes Unlimited and Traveller. We ran a lot of modules in Traveller, but we didn't really enjoy running modules at all. And we didn't enjoy the writing of early D&D modules, so we didn't use them. We just homebrewed everything. Yeah, he's CR39. He's in the Epic Level Handbook, actually, I think. R.A. Salvatore was a mean DM. Yeah, I imagine so. Oh, thanks, Charles. You might like Elfin Ship. It's about a master cheesemaker. Really? Is Miller a draconic sounding name? Can be. Can be. You'd be like the Cthan, yeah. Wish there was an elementalist class like a sorcerer type. One thing you can have is a warlock whose patron is an elemental or a primordial. So most of their power is evocation. Could I make a cheese focused stream sometime, like a cheese ecology and stuff? Yeah, maybe. I suppose I could throw up a video of like how you make cheese. I'm sure there's people out there who don't know how cheese is made. How does it work if you are planescape? Are they like celestial and fiends shaped by belief, or genies, or just primes made up of extraplanar matter? How do they work? So when you go to an outer plane of existence, you travel as an ethereal spirit, a ghost, from your dead body in the prime material plane. So you're a ghost, right? And in between getting from A to B, you may be summoned back by a raised dead spell, and they'll say, you basically get a ping going, you've got a pathway to go back to a body if you want to. And it's your option whether you want to go back or not. And in those first few moments of passing over from the material realm to the outer realms, you don't know what you're going to. And your current existence as a ghost is confusing and disorientating. You're surrounded by memories and things. It's weird. And you have this force inexorably taking you towards a judgment zone in the middle of the ethereal plane, in the deep ethereal. So it's very tempting to go back to your original body. So when you raise somebody from the dead within 24 hours or so of them dying, they'll pop back into their body with no questions asked. The longer it takes you to raise them from the dead or resurrect them, the more likely they are to say no, because they've passed on to whatever afterlife they were meant to go to. So good creatures who have gone on to a good afterlife, why would you go back to the material realm? Not only are you in a place which is perfectly in alignment with your sensibilities, but you have a purpose that you are pursuing. You have a meaningful existence in the outer realms that you are pursuing, even if it's an illusion, even if it's a dream. You don't want to wake up from a particularly good dream, and neither do you want to return from a particularly good dream to the here and now, the reality, the grim meat-hook realities that butchered you in the first place. So the chances of raising a good person from the dead should actually be very, very low, because they just don't want to go back. Evil creatures, on the other hand, should be relatively easy to bring back from the dead, hence why there's so many undead creatures. So it may be possible that all of these people who are stuck in lower planes of existence are just biting at the chance to come back to the material realm in any form they can, and some of them force their way through as undead creatures. So there's that. So, but you don't see that reflected in the game because we don't talk about alignment anymore. It's somehow verboten. But that's the basic gist of it. The outer realms they're kind of like a dream. Like, they may be quite different to the last time you visited them, but they're based on the beliefs of what we think they are. So when you are describing what you think of as the outer realm, what Asgard looks like to you, that's what it is when they arrive there. When another DM describes Asgard, that's their belief system, their idea of what Asgard is, and that's what it is when you get there. So, and the perspective of Asgard may actually change from player character to player character. They may not agree entirely on what they see. You never know. So the more you know about the mythology of what the background, what that plane is based on, the more informed you will be, and the more accurate your depiction of it will be. But yeah, so time is not entirely linear on the outer planes of existence. Like, you can go to a library in the second or third layer of Celestia and be there for years studying up on things, and then transport yourself back to the prime material realm that you came from. If you return to a raised dead spell or something like that, and only moments have passed, and you'll be like, what? And then your memories of the afterlife suddenly fade, and you're back to just being, back to being immortal again. Same thing, sort of thing with the Fae realm. You're supposed to forget the Fae realm when you leave it. That's one of the aspects of the Fae realm that is kind of a bummer, because you go to the Feywild and you go on these fabulous adventures, then you transport back to the material world again, you forget this dream that you had of the Fey world. The Fey world is very much supposed to be like a dream. Tiamat's a softie once you get to know her. Beg to differ. I was not talking about petitioner, I was talking about people who were born on the outer planes and can now see portals and be summoned and banished. So they're native outsiders. So they're essentially exactly like petitioners. They are made up out of the stuff of outer planes. If they are killed in the prime material plane, their soul goes back to the outer plane. So that's their native environment. So they will always be outsiders. They can never become naturalized to the plane of existence. So for them, traveling to the prime material plane is like traveling to a strange static reality where everything is predetermined and methodical and plodding and cold. You know, it's not as vital. It's not as mythical. It's not as dreamy as where they come from. Like in the outer planes, if you believe strongly enough that you can do something, then you can achieve miraculous things. It is a realm of heroes usually. But yeah, if you go back to the prime material realm, it doesn't matter how much you believe in something. You either can do it or not. Sorry for all those people who believe in positive affirmations and stuff, but physics is physics. Female dragons are nicer than the males? Really? What sort of patron does a Hexblade Warlock serve? That's wide open to debate. I have a player who wants to play one. The info I found is a bit confusing. Do they serve a sentient sword or the being that made the sword? So the sword may act as a conduit to a spirit or an entity. You don't really need to get very specific about it with Hexblades. It could be an ancestor, for instance, that wielded the sword a long time ago. See you later, Michael. Yeah, item of, a holy weapon. But are they shaped by belief like gods, or are they static like mortals? Well, they know that gods exist, so they don't have to believe. They know. So they don't have faith and stuff. That kind of makes it quite a difference. They know that gods are real because they've seen them. Danny, good question. Probably the primordials, I would say, because there's a lot more of them, and they're scattered. So if the primordials ever came together, the gods in their current shape would have a very, very hard time taking it over. That's not in the best interests of the primordials or the gods to conflict with each other anymore, because the abyss is actually eating up the universe for the both of them. So it's a serious threat to both the astral and the inner planes. The outer planes and inner planes are both under threat from that. As for the Warhammer 40k gods, they have no vested interest in the multiverse of Dungeons & Dragons, so they're quite happy to form a conflict. So in that particular case, the advantage is that there's more gods and primordials than there are the three primal powers of the Warhammer 40k universe. Although the Warhammer 40k universe powers are very, very strong. So they can change reality and create warp vortexes and stuff. Troll cheese is a component of healing potions. Oh. Ugh. It's like, is this real healing potion or is this just troll milk? I swear it's not troll milk. Oh, there you go. I had a hexblade with a banjo haunted by a dead bard. Nice. Yeah, that's true, Miller. Any advice on a campaign with invading constructs from a demiplane or Mechanus that has gone wrong? Any advice on a campaign with invading constructs from a demiplane of Mechanus that has gone wrong? Wow, that's a good idea. Look at the Clockwork Horrors, for instance. Clockwork Horrors are a really good template for that sort of situation, where like a sort of a Modron army, or Formians, or insects, giant insects, beetles and stuff. Just make them construct versions, so they've got the same traits as constructs, but you can use any sort of animal template, and they work in a very organized force. There'll always be a hierarchy, so there will always be a queen leader that gives information to all the underlings, and the underlings will act in a coordinated fashion. So that you've got to be real careful about them ganging up on the adventurers. So any sort of conflict will they'll have drawn in reinforcements, which means that they will slowly progress because they're backing up their forces as they go, methodically, everything methodical, very lawful. It also means that if you're not aggressive against them, they don't aggress against you. So they're ruled by principles and triggers. So they're triggered by stuff. If nothing triggers them, then they're not aggressive. Otherwise, they're ultimately aggressive. Does that mean... does belief shape planar characters like with outsiders, like belief shapes gods, celestials, and fiends? Are they independent from what people believe about them? Yes, they are. So you're not going to... Somebody's individual beliefs are not going to cause grand changes to the outer planes. They're going to cause minor changes, minor morphology. Celestial beings, beings of gods and beings of extreme power, like really high-powered mages and things, can manifest their will, determine their will, and change reality on a fairly on a wider, larger basis. But it's a hell of an effort. Outsiders that are native to those places, they're resistant to those sort of changes in the first place. Like that's just their bread and butter. That's day to day. That's Monday for them, being able to change things a little bit, and they're resistant to being changed themselves. A lot of outsiders have resistance to certain like elemental types and things like that. They're immune to being like polymorphed and stuff. Depends on what sort of plane they come from. They have a certain amount of that plane in them, you could say. Yeah, I haven't had any maggot-filled cheese from the Mediterranean. I don't know if it exists, even, honestly. Also, I don't think we'd be able to import it because it's full of parasites. Rot grub infected liquid cheese. Well, this Marquise Castellio, Marquise is pretty strong. Like they've got a strength score on here of 4 out of 6, and they call it bold. Yeah, definitely. It's stronger than the blue cheese. Yeah, Kairos, that's true. Angels don't feel a negative emotion like hate, so it has to be devils, I guess. Well, they can feel that something is wrong. So something which is completely chaos, which just destroys for the sake of it, they don't feel hate. They feel like it must be dealt with immediately. So they feel very strongly motivated against things which offend their sensibilities, but they don't stew and think about vengeance and stuff like that. They just deal with the here and now. Another magic item video. I should do. There's more. Yeah, I've got more videos on magic coming up, for sure. I think everyone will be very happy with the magic video that I have planned. Who hates demons more, devils or angels? Devils have got more of a understanding of demons. I think they're more of a day-to-day. I've been killed multiple times by demons sort of thing. Angels just hate them on general principle. So angels can feel wrath towards demons, like they kill them with extreme prejudice. You could say they do kind of hate demons, yeah, a little bit. Because before the demons came along, there was a chance of fixing the multiverse. Everything wasn't broken, but the demons have fundamentally broken the multiverse, and the angels know it. Also, the angels don't know if there's a final solution or not. They're not privy to that information. It's further up the chain. Oh no, I mean it's illegal to import it into New Zealand due to like quarantine, biological containment and stuff. We protect our border very carefully for like fruit flies and parasites and things like that coming into New Zealand because we produce so much fruit and vegetables and things that we export around the world. Thoth is an awesome god. That's true. Burn the heretic, kill the mutant, purge the unclean. Blessed is a mind too small for doubt. Alright, everybody. It's time for me to go and get another cup of coffee and carry on with my good work. I've got a lot of writing to do. It's been a good 2 hour long stream today, pretty much. Well, almost 2 hours. 1 hour 45 minutes. Also, I've had some cheese this morning, but I haven't actually had any breakfast, so I'm getting kind of hungry. And as you can tell, it's kind of petered out. Oh. Thanks, Will. My idea is a Titan comes to Primaterial and convinces the giants to kill dragons through adventuring parties and subterfuge, gain favour from Dad. Absolutely. That's a really good idea, actually. Do the adventurers ever find out that it's actually a Titan behind the activity? Witness your doom. Hey, Miss L. Yeah, well, you know, same time every week. Any chance of seeing some of your mini collection in one stream? Yeah, I might do that at some point. Most of it's in storage at the moment because I live out in the I live out in the country, so I don't get people to come out and play games in person, and I don't use miniatures on video games, broadcast games, or chat games, Discord games. Make a video on Titans. We shall see. Alright, everybody. Have a fantastic week. I will see you next weekend. Yeah, if you go to the Discord channel and just ask general questions, you'll get pretty good answers from people there. We're all very passionate about D&D. We also have like a wicked sense of humour, so you might get memes, but we kind of restrict those to the meme channel. But there's quite a lot of discussion about D&D on the Discord server all the time. And if I'm there, obviously I'll answer any questions as well. All right. Catch you later, everybody. Good stream. Nice to see you. I'm going to go and have some breakfast. Oh, do you or other knowledgeable people answer questions on the Discord channel? Yes, we do. Quentin, yes, you did a little bit. I'm sorry. It was a good almost 2 hours of stream. We were waiting for you. We're all very disappointed. Thanks, Judy Bear. Thanks, Miller. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Will. Jason, Mark, Dragon Turtle, Ego, Kairos. Ego, you've been with me the entire stream. Well done. All of you guys. Okay, see you later.